Mary Honeyball, first of all, would it be compulsory for companies to have 40% of women on their boards?
It will be. This is legislation, and as you rightly said, we are debating it this afternoon and voting on it tomorrow. Assuming it goes through the European Parliament, it will then have to go through the rest of the process. It will have to go to the Council of Ministers, and we'll probably have quite intense negotiations at that point. But should it go through the whole of the EU process, yes, it will be legislative and it will be mandatory.
And how would it be enforced?
There are provisions in the report for sanctions which each member state will apply. It will be up to the member states to apply the sanctions, though the report does suggest what they are. And that is something, in fact, that the Labour MEPs are taking some issue with. And we think some of the sanctions in the report are actually too strong. For instance, there is one sanction which talks about liquidating companies if they don't agree.
Oh my goodness.
They don't actually implement the demands. And we are opposed to that, and we will be voting against that.
Marina, I presume you're opposed to that too, but you're also opposed to it in principle. I mean, let's look at the figures. They haven't improved much since we last spoke about this. At the present, the UK's women on boards representation stands at 18.5%, the 10th best of the 28 member states. Is that good enough in your view?
It's never going to be good enough. We have to keep working at it. The question is, we know there's a problem. We need more women on boards. We need a greater diversity on boards. That's vital. But how we do it, that's where we differ in objective. I think this report or this directive is going to be using, is just dealing with the symptoms and not dealing with the actual problem. And that's why we need to look further. We need to look at the pathway. We need to look how we can get women ready to go into boards. We need to make sure that more women want to go into boards. There was a survey yesterday, actually, by a recruitment agency that said that women do want to go on boards, but only 6% want quotas, compulsory quotas.
Right, but
they want to get there on merit.
You're against the quotas. You want to change the figures, but they have worked in other countries, and those other countries haven't seemed to have suffered, or the businesses haven't suffered. So Norway has seen an increase from 9% to 40% in under a decade. You just can't reach those figures unless you have quotas.
It has indeed. It's seen 40% in non-executive positions. Now, it's seen no increase in executive. It's seen no increase on other levels of women going into business. And in fact, the 40% they have, one woman holds 90 posts. So I wonder just what sort of women they're putting, what sort of quotas they're achieving.
Right, well, let's put that question...
Marina, it's actually wrong to say that in Norway executive directors have not increased. They actually have gone up. Norway does actually have not as many, but they have actually increased their number of executive directors by 3%. And of course, I agree with Marina that we need to make sure that women are ready, women can go on boards, that they want to, they have the training and the experience. But these two things are not mutually exclusive. Quotas does not mean that you don't take those measures. Of course, we need to make sure women can do the job. I firmly believe that women can become non-executive directors. There are enough good women out there, and women are just as good as men.
Right. And that's what we should be doing. We should be encouraging them, not catapulting or not just creating posts. They need to get there on their merit.
Right, and what about the question of merit, Mary Honeyball? If you just have a quota, a random quota, whatever you want to put it at, you are encouraging tokenism, aren't you? You are going to have people and women who aren't experienced enough for those jobs.
No, I don't believe that you will, because there are women who are experienced enough. Viviane Reding, the Commissioner who has been piloting this legislation through the Commission, has actually gone out to business schools around Europe, and she has women who are ready to do these jobs. So we know the women are out there. We need more of them. We need more of them with the training and who can actually take up the positions. But there are, at the moment, enough. And women are just as good at this as men. And in fact, there is a very good business case for having women on boards, and the new Lord Mayor of the City of London, Fiona Woolf, has actually made this point often, that a diversity on a company board does actually improve performance. So there are very good business reasons for doing this.
Well, Marina, and let's look at the business reaction, because Germany has agreed a women's quota. By 2016, companies registered on the German stock exchange will be required to have at least 30% of women on its supervisory boards. So they clearly don't think it's bad for business.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Germany just announced that yesterday, I believe. Now, what I'm saying is it's not up to the EU. If Germany would like to do it, then it's up to the member state. They can do that if it works. They will be having problems, though. I believe they've said that they don't know how they're going to enforce it, and they're saying that if they have these 30% seats and they're not full, they will keep them empty. How good that will be for business, I don't know. But the point is, the European Union is coming up with a piece of legislation which is one size fits all, and really we need to let member states decide what they're doing.
Marina and Mary, just stay with us for one moment while we get reaction from you. What do you think about this idea? Will things ever really change unless there is a forced quota?
Well, I think Marina's last point is absolutely crucial here. What on earth is it to do with the EU about quotas on British company boards? If the British government or a British political party wants to have that as a policy, fair enough. I mean, I think Mary's also right, though, that many companies are missing out on a huge amount of talent by not promoting women to boards.
Do you think the women are there, though, in the first place?
I think they are, but even if they're not now, they certainly will be in 5 or 10 years. And I think, in a sense, this is one of those things where over time it will correct itself. I think we're seeing in the British
very slowly, though, if you look at the figures.
It may be, but in FTSE 100 companies now, I think the amount of women on boards in the City of London has shot up in the last couple of years, and quite right too.
Right. What about that point, Mary Honeyball, just before we finish, that why should the EU be forcing this on member states who should be making up their own minds about what they want to do?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that the number has gone up in women on FTSE 100 boards. It's gone up by about 9% in 2 years, which is a lot better than it was, but it's still very slow. And that's in the UK, where we're making a big effort. There are many countries in the EU who are nowhere near that. And this is a legislation to bring everybody up to a similar level, and that's the EU's role in it. If member states are better, some member states are ahead of the EU as a whole, that's very good, and that's what we would like to see. But we want more parity and more equality so all member states can take advantage of the talent, the women who are out there.
All right, Mary Honeyball and Marina Yannakoudakis in Strasbourg, thank you. Enjoy the rest of the week there.